Good evening, welcome to Talkin Kop. It's me, Chris Brack, and I'm here with Kev and Ashley. Sorry we're late. We're trying to give Kev some Christmas spirit, but it's not happening. So me and Ashley are going to have to be the cheery ones today. So how are we doing, Kev? I'm getting my own back because you've been off doing fuck all for 2 days, which is really annoying.
It's lovely. It's lovely. I literally sat down and watched the whole of season 5 of Yellowstone over the last few days. So yeah,
I'll pretend that I know what that is.
It's actually a cracking series, to be fair. It is really, really good. But it's just been enjoying the last few days before the madness starts.
Yeah.
And it's about to start, I suppose, tomorrow. The madness really football wise starts tomorrow. There's gonna be non-stop from tomorrow up until God knows when.
Talk about tomorrow, Kev. The madness has started now. You're on a show with us. What more can you want out of life? Ashley, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you guys?
Yeah, good. Just before we go to the show, did we enjoy the League Cup quarterfinals? That Spurs game was mental.
I did enjoy it. I think it went as well as we could have hoped it to go. I think that United lost, which was great, and Spurs had to try really hard, so they couldn't rotate. So bonus points on both accounts, and it was just really entertaining. That's kind of what you want from a League Cup game, isn't it?
Yeah, especially when it's two teams you don't particularly care about either way, so the result didn't really matter. But yeah, it was. I mean, some horrific goalkeeping, Kev. Yeah. Absolutely horrendous goalkeeping.
It was poor goalkeeping, but do you know what? He made some really good saves in the game. Some really good saves in the game. He's just not a footballer. He is not a footballer. So the fact that they asked him to play football, is just, it's on them. The only people to blame for the horror show of the last 20 minutes was the Spurs coaching staff. Because they asked him to do something that he's not capable of doing. He's never been capable of doing it, and he never will be capable of doing it. And they got what they deserved. And they're lucky they got through it in the end. The scoreline flatters them, but they were really dominant for about an hour. They ran riot, and they really should have scored more. And there were parts in that game where they looked really, really good, but they just turned into full-on Spurs for about 20 minutes. And, it's just a template for everything that squad is at the minute. And I know they're hit with injuries, but it doesn't matter. Even when they've got all their players available, they're capable of that monstrosity as well.
They play exactly the same way.
Yeah, you don't know what you're going to get with them. You really don't. And as Steve Crowley says there, Foster will have a worldie on a Sunday nailed on. He's capable of it. He's a giant of a keeper. He is an absolute man mountain. And going back years, not too long ago, actually, there was a lot of clubs were looking at him when he was in Scotland. And, as a goalkeeper, as an out-and-out shot stopper, he's very good. He's a very good shot stopper.
6'7".
Ball at his feet, he's atrocious. He is. I'd nearly fancy you're a better footballer with your ball at your feet than he is, even at your age.
Fuck me, that's saying something. Unfortunately, only 5'10", so people just chip me, which might be a bit of a problem. So
you said
Ashley, I will. You can't be 5'2" and be a goalie. 5'10" and be a goalie. Sorry, it's just there aren't many.
But no, the draw was good. The draw was good because the way the draw panned out for us, I'm delighted we're away first, and they're the one side I prefer to play.
I didn't want to deal with Arsenal, not because I don't think we can beat them, because I do, but I just don't want to deal with the drama and the build-up. I just feel like it's an unnecessary distraction.
There's that, and the fact that Newcastle really make you work.
Yeah, that's true.
They really, really will. And Newcastle are the kind of side who would quite happily go 1-0 up and just put 10 behind the ball and let Gordon go on a flyer, with Isak. And the only thing I'd say is Spurs and Newcastle, this competition is the be-all and end-all of their season so far, because they have to come away with silverware this season, really. Both managers are under pressure. They've both spent big money, and there's absolutely zero return on the owner's investment so far for either club. So while Liverpool and Arsenal have their eyes on a bigger prize, it's two semi-finals they're 50-50s. They could go either way. It all depends on where squads are at that time of year. And I mean, it's not long away. It's only the first week. I think it's the week of the 6th, the week starting the 6th of January.
Yeah, straight after. So we'll play United on the Sunday, then we'll play Spurs on probably the Wednesday. And then we don't play the second leg until February. It's like a 3-week gap between the semi-finals.
Exactly.
Which is quite big. I assume that's because of the Champions League.
Yeah. But you don't mind that either, because it means, depending on how your league form is and what your injury status is and suspensions and what have you, you never know. You might have a new player in the door that you want to get involved in the squad. And no better place to do it than in the League Cup, especially a semi-final. I think we'll go stronger than what we've done so far, because I think Arne Slot will want to win silverware as well. And as Mourinho used to always point out, it's a nice one to get in your back pocket early in the season. It's a nice confidence booster for the whole squad. Because it's the one thing, I suppose, you can look at the League Cup. It is a competition for the whole squad. Everyone gets invested in it, because it's everyone from the up-and-coming under-23s through to the senior players who need minutes, up until the business end of it. And then you usually tend to see sides start taking it really seriously. So something to look forward to anyway.
Plus, we can rotate because of how well we've done in a Champions League, which also helps us as well, which is good. So let's talk about the game, because Ashley, this is a big game.
Yeah.
We could potentially be going into the game second spot, because Chelsea played before us. They've got Everton away. I think they're the early kickoff on Sunday, so a bit of scoreboard pressure. But if that is the case, we'd be second with 2 games in hand. You've got to win the games in hand, but it's still a healthy position to be in. And our form at the new stadium's pretty decent. I think last season was our first ever loss there. And before that, I think in the last 6 games, it's 4 wins, 1 draw, and that loss. So it's a ground we normally don't do too bad at. So how are you feeling about it in general?
I mean, it's a ground that we don't do too bad at, but it's a ground where all sorts of chaotic things happen. I feel like it's never straightforward. And last year, more than any year, was a total new curveball that I didn't even know existed, where goals could get ruled out even though they were perfectly decent. So I feel like it's one of those things where I'm going into this kind of just expecting it to be a mad game, which hopefully it's mad entertaining and not mad as in, we get a referee decision that goes bonkers. But I do think that it's a tone setter for for this part of the season. I think that we have had a couple of games on the trot now with not ideal results. We've been, we've had the red card go against us. We've had the error at the end of the Newcastle game. I kind of just want to wipe that slate clean, get a win, and go into like the festive fixtures with a bang. And I think it's a good game to do that, because I think the team gets up for big games. And whether or not you think Spurs is a big team, that's up to you. But I think this is a big game in our season and in our calendar. So I'm excited for it. I'm just also prepared for the madness.
Yeah, Kev, it's normally always an entertaining game against Spurs, no matter what fault both sides are in. This is normally always a game with goals and incidents.
Look, yeah, Spurs is one thing you can guarantee about Spurs: they'll score goals and they'll create plenty of chances. They're flying going forward, but in the same toss of the coin, they will give you chances. I think we were looking at it. They've scored the most goals in the league this season, and I think their goal difference at the minute is something like +17 or +19, something like that. Whereas if you looked at their goal difference, compare that to the sides that are in the rest of the league, they should be in and around the top 3 or 4. But it's their inability to manage games that's been their Achilles heel throughout this season and last season as well. And that's a lot. That is all down to the manager. And people think I've got a bugbear against him. It's because
just Australians in general, isn't it?
It's because I look at what his ideals for football is, and Arne Slot talked about it today in the press conference. And I watched Arne Slot's press conference. I seen the headlines from Ange Postecoglou's press conference, and it was like there was a proper bromance going on between the two of them. At the end of the day, if we were playing like Spurs play, scoring goals for fun, and we were in the 10th position, I'd be climbing the walls as a fan, because it's screaming out to be solid. And he just doesn't have that instinct in him to tell players to sit and manage a game. It's just not there. And it was shown last season in the game against Chelsea where they were down to 9 men, and he still played with a ridiculous line on the halfway line. And it was shown last night where they were 3-0 up against Spurs, and they suddenly started. Pedro Porro was still bombing down the wing, and they were still passing back to Fraser Forster to play out from the back. It's nonsense, and it's you wouldn't have a Sunday League side play like this. You know, they're so good going forward, but there's no balance. There's no leadership on the pitch to say stop, shut it down, relax, and manage this. And there's nothing coming from the sideline to say the same. Now, I would be, like I said, I'd be tearing my hair out if I was a Spurs fan watching that, because they're better than where they are. They've won 7, lost 7, and drawn 2. That's insane. That is just absolute insanity. But I'm just looking at what they could put out as a predicted lineup tomorrow, or Sunday, sorry. And if we go there with the right attitude and the right mentality, we keep the ball and make them chase us and just play properly, we'll score plenty of goals, because they will give you chances, 100%. But at the same time, if you're loose, if you're silly with the ball in midfield, they can crucify you.
Yeah. I mean, actually, Dan Bailey makes a good point here. Spurs have the most goals in the first 15 minutes. The problem is killing teams off. And this is why it makes it an interesting game for Liverpool, because, you be honest, first 15 minutes of the last couple of games has been a bit of a problem for Liverpool. They've been wants to do this slower start, controlled start. There's nothing wrong with that. There's different ways to win football games, but we've been leaving ourselves a bit too open in the first 15 minutes, and we sort of get ourselves settled and generally see our way through it. But that's the thing you've got to be careful of, because the one thing Spurs have is pace. And that's going to be a challenge. You know, I mean, look, I love Andy Robertson, but if I'm Spurs, I'm saying target the left, because he's not in his best form. Probably most didn't think I'd say this, but it's good that Kostas is back, so now we can start to rotate him again.
Clip that up there for us.
We clip that up, put that on socials. But we can start to rotate him again, where we can I don't expect Robson to start the Leicester game.
Yeah,
I expect to see Kostas start. I mean, you bring Robson back for West Ham, and he has a 7, a nice gap between games, and I think that is when you start to see the best of Robertson, and it keeps Kostas ticking over, so he isn't going into games cold. Because I think that was the benefit of having the two of them, is we were always able to rotate them a little bit.
I think Robbo is better just playing 1 game a week at this point. I just think that's where he's at in this point in time, and I think it lets us play to both of their strengths. I think that Tsimikas does have strengths. I think he's a better corner taker. His set pieces are more threatening, in my opinion. But going back to your idea about the fast starts, I think that's going to be really critical. I think that we have had a few games, harder games, like our City game or the Madrid game, where I think that we did start quickly and we showed intent from the off. And I think that is going to be what I'm looking for first and foremost as the game starts, because if we're not on it, you can 100% guarantee that Spurs will just kind of cut through you like a hot knife through butter, because that's what they do on their kickoffs. And I think that we need to show a level of maturity here, because I think what Slot has been trying to do this entire time is make sure that we develop a level of control, but he also he's interested in going forward. He's interested in being attacking. He doesn't want us to start slow and let teams score against us. I think it's about, have we developed this finely tuned balance that Slot is looking for? And I think that, if we can control the game against Spurs, I think that'll do us a world of good. I think that's what United wasn't able to do. That felt like 2 teams that were both kind of helter-skelter going at each other. And Spurs feels helter-skelter. They feel a little bit like us when we didn't have a defense and we were like, well, we're just going to outscore the opponent. And that's kind of where I feel like Spurs is right now. And it is entertaining to watch, but there's no level of control there. So I want us to kind of out-control them. And I want us to be more mature than them. And I want to see the team gel together in a way that, I know that they can do. I think we've sort of been stuttering a little bit the last couple of games, but I just want to return to our controlling kind of authoritative best.
Yeah. Kev, without going into lineups, because we'll do them a bit later.
Yeah.
Based on what we saw solely just say in the League Cup game, but I think this is sort of true of, especially since Vicario got injured, is Liverpool probably need to pick their side. I think has the most pressers in it that are going to go high, take a bit of risk, but really press Spurs high and put pressure on them. Because I kind of feel like that's sort of your way home. It does leave you open to the counter, that's the Spurs game. It's no tactic is perfect. There's always risk and reward, but this just feels like a game where you really want to push them high, press them high, a bit like we did with Man City and Chelsea. Press them high because that actually exposed an opportunity for us.
Yeah, there's a few players that I think have to start, and the other ones you look at will be our fullbacks. They have to be so intelligent about when they decide to press up behind the likes of whoever is playing on the right and playing on the left. You often see, and Trent is the one who does it an awful lot, where if he'll be right up behind Salah on an opposing side's goal kick, and then when it gets into maybe halfway into their half, then he tries to drop. If you try that with Son, he'll probably do you for pace. So. Yeah. You've got to be very, very switched on, and that's probably our biggest danger from there. They're very good at getting out if you press half-hearted, if you only half do it, if you're not as intense as you need to be, but at the same time, the risk and reward is there for everyone to see. I think if you win the ball high up against this Spurs side, because they don't have their regular back four, and even they don't have Bentancur is probably a huge. Well, he not probably is. He is a huge miss for them. That defensive nous in midfield, I suppose Bassoum offers it a bit, but he's not as good as Bentancur in that role. So, if we get the counter-attacks, the counter-press right, like I think we did. I think you saw it in the first half massively against Southampton, where our counter-pressing was so on point. It was so good, and it was relentless for the entire first half, where any slight hope that Southampton thought they had of getting out was just taken away from them in a heartbeat right the way through that half. So that was a good test for what awaits them on Sunday. But at the same time, look, Spurs will get chances. They'll have moments in the game where they'll really pile on pressure, and I fancy them to probably score one or two. I think this is going to be one of those basketball games that it'll be high scoring and it could go end to end. We could get dragged into that kind of game, and so be it. I think we're just better than them all over the pitch. So if that's the way we have to go and beat them, that's the way we have to go and beat them. Actually, Windsor puts a point in there. Spurs might surprise us and kick long. I'm not expecting them to. I doubt they will, purely and simply because Virgil van Dijk wins more aerial duels than anybody else in the league. And if Spurs are going to go long, they can only really go long to Dom Solanke. And if you ask Dom Solanke to do that, Virgil will beat him up for the game. And it will be a case of, right, I'll physically dominate you here, and that will take away from your ability to spin in behind and cause me problems. I think
it'll be like when Ollie Watkins was up against Virgil, where he just absolutely nullified him.
Exactly. I wouldn't mind if Spurs did that. If Spurs tried that and just went direct, don't play. And I think they should, actually. I think for the first 20 minutes especially, they shouldn't play out from the back. They should look to go long, not long, but look to go into areas of the pitch, in behind Trent, in behind Robertson, look for the aerial threat there and work from there. Work the position on the pitch from there. If it goes out for a throw, then you work your attacks from there. But I don't think he's got it in him to do it. I think he'll go back to doing what he'll revert to type. He'll play out from the back, and you have likelihood is Destiny Adogu will start from the left. So he'll bomb on. Poirot will bomb on. and that'll leave acres of space for us to play balls into. And we've got players at the back who are very good at picking 40, 50-yard passes into space. And we've only got so many willing runners to go and do that and take advantage of it. That's what I mean. This game is intriguing for so many ways, for so many different reasons. But I definitely think this is going to be the game. This has the potential to be one of the games of the Christmas period, for sure, to watch for as a neutral. If you're watching this as a neutral, there's the potential to be really high scoring, really entertaining. But like I said, if we, as long as we do our job right, we could score. We could really inflict damage on them if we're right on it. I'm convinced of that.
Speaking of inflicting damage, Ashley, and because we're in the Christmas spirit, let's talk about the officials, because let's be honest, that was the massive talking point last season, rightfully so. And I've no doubt all the build-up of Super Sunday will also be about that. I've got to be honest, until you said his name and pointed out he'd refed us before, I'd never heard of the referee we've got. I'd heard of the VAR official, which was a bit more concerning. But so for those who know, it's the referee did the Southampton game, isn't it?
Yeah, so his name is Sam Barrett. His assistant is Lee Betts and Wade Smith. The fourth official is Michael Oliver, who we all know. And the VAR is Paul Tierney, who we also all know. And then assistant VAR is Sean Massey Ellis, who is actually a decent
very
ref.
good.
But
the actually very good.
She's not going to be the one that's pulling the punches in the VAR. That's going to be Paul Tierney. So my understanding is that Sam Barrett is sort of one of those refs that kind of bounces between the Premier League and the Championship. So he's done 19 Premier League games total over the last 12 months. So he's not a particularly experienced referee. Our last game with him in charge was the Southampton game where we won 3-2. Before that, we have not had him since we played Norwich in a cup game. So he has not reffed many of our games. So I don't really know what to expect from him. I don't know what his general demeanor is like in a game because we just don't have him that often. So maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. Probably not, because the referees are awful. And if the last game is anything to go by at the Tottenham Stadium, I just expect craziness. So hopefully not that crazy, though.
The only thing I could say about him is in the Southampton game, aside from the penalty, which I can understand why he gave it, and then look, the VAR official, backed him up or, gave their opinion. I don't actually remember him, which I actually think is a good thing, because I actually quite like going to games where you go, can you remember this? No. Which all means that nothing particularly horrendous happened. They were just there as part of the game. So that's what you kind of hope. You don't want that to be a talking point, because unfortunately the referee is becoming too much of a talking point for everyone at the moment. What do you think, Kev?
Massively so at the weekend. I mean, the referee in the Fulham game, he lost control of the game in the first few minutes and he never got it back. It's a massive game for him. He's not very experienced, but this is probably the biggest game of the weekend. So for him to get this fixture, it's a big deal for him. You just hope that he's completely anonymous and we don't end up talking about him afterwards. And, fingers crossed. But at the end of the day, you can't really do too much about it. But I think you have to be aware of the fact that he's a bit of a novice. He's a bit inexperienced. So make sure the Spurs Spurs players don't get in and around him early. Chipping away. And Son is the smiling assassin. He's a nasty piece of work when he wants to be. So
that's the other thing about this game. There's a lot of really awful tackles and red cards that have happened in the past where especially Spurs players getting us booked, like whether it was Kane or whatever. There were some awful experiences. I mean, there was that one with Robbo that I remember specifically where that was, he got a red card, and then Harry Kane absolutely should have got a red card but didn't. So I, like I said, expect the unexpected in this.
Yeah. So, but before we go,
Richard, I absolutely agree with everything that Richard says there. With all due respect, yellow card was given to Pereira for the rake down on Gravenberch. What's the point in a VAR if they're not going to call that one? Yeah, that's that in a nutshell for me.
No,
was,
come on, Kev.
Was the entire Fulham game.
Come on, Kev, be fair. Stephen Warnock said it's an attempt for the ball. So, don't worry about it.
I don't think that's what they're doing anymore. Like I think that if the referee sees the call, they actually had someone on last night after the Cup game explaining this on the US stream. And they were talking about if the ref sees the call and makes a decision that VAR isn't going to re-referee if they think it's a red card unless it's glaringly obvious. So if it's like somewhere on the border, they're not going to re-referee it the way that we saw last season. It's just not happening. They're going to stick with the call on the field. And whether we like it or not, that's the way they determine this whole season is going to go.
Yep. It makes an absolute mockery of the VAR system. But again, that's the Premier League. And as a whole, they never wanted it in the first place. And the thing is, they don't like the idea of re-refereeing the game. But the second they introduce VAR, that's exactly what you're doing. You're re-refereeing the game because you're bringing attention to a decision that you think the referee on the pitch has got wrong. So they hide behind this as if it's some kind of like cloak. It's like a Harry Potter invisibility cloak type thing. It's an absolute joke, and they're allowed to get away with it because if they don't, then they'll take access away from media, and you'll never get any referees going on for their monthly slot and what have you. It's a joke. They're creating a rod for their own back, and they're not helping anyone. And it's not just our game. There's been some horrendous decisions made this season, and if it's nailed on 100% that it's cost Gary O'Neill his job. Some of the VR decisions this season,
horrific ones.
Yeah,
a bit of a reasons behind Gary O'Neill losing his job as well, though. To be fair,
there are, but he's definitely not been helped by some of the decisions that have gone against them.
I just think it's crazy that it's there in general, and they've basically come out like I said, they were talking about it last night. They've come out and basically said we accept that there are going to be mistakes in the game, and that's okay with us. We are only there for like hand of God scenarios where that's the only time that we're going to be stepping in from now on. And they're basically, you have second eyes on something. You have another set of eyes looking at these challenges that are clearly red card challenges. And they've now decided, nope, we're just going to let it go. And that it's like, why bother having it at all?
Yeah, because I've seen a few in the chat saying, go back to what it was like in the League Cup, get rid of VAR. Trust me, I remember what it was like without VAR. Fuck me, it was if not worse.
Way worse. Oh, it was way worse.
Way worse.
Especially in Spurs games where they were guessing at whose penalty it was and whatnot. So
yeah. I mean, if anything, TV would probably prefer that because then it gives them more talking points. Because that's what we used to talk about. That's offside. That's not offside. So it doesn't make it. It doesn't. It's. I always say the process of VAR makes sense as long as it's used by people who know what they're doing, and that isn't the case.
No.
Yeah. So anyway,
the VAR in this country is just there to cause headlines. It's not actually doing us any favors.
Yeah. Speaking of causing headlines, let's talk about football prices because this is a proper headline. So they've got a mental offer at the moment. They have 9,999 tickets for the price of 39p. Offer is on until the 20th. So today. Oh, actually, is it? Yeah. Today. And basically, you can win hospitality tickets for Leicester. And also spot prizes of like side shirts as well. So it's worth a go. So, for 39p, you can't say no. And more importantly, also, don't forget our two charity partners, which is the Lighthouse Cafe in Dublin and Fan Supporting Food Bags. If you don't know what these are, we've been pushing these every show. The aim was for us to raise €10,000, 5,000 for each charity. The Lighthouse Cafe is a charity based in Dublin, which helps feed the homeless. And Fan Supporting Food Banks, you see them outside every match day at Anfield, Goodison, and all other things. But this is the Liverpool side we're looking after, and that's to help feed people who can't afford the food. And look, Christmas time now, you don't want people going hungry, around this time. So if you can give it, great, give. If you can't, just share it around social media, WhatsApp groups. You never know who it can help. Right, let's talk about lineups. So, Kev, you can have the fun one. We'll talk about Spurs.
Yeah, no problem.
So we think. That's what we think of the lineup. Well, it'll be Fraser Forster in goal because they haven't got anyone else.
Yeah.
Back four will probably be Porro, and Doggy should be back. Be Archie Gray and Dragerson.
Yeah.
I think that's their back four. So
that's the back four.
First choice fullbacks, third choice centre back, and Archie Gray's doing a job for him because he's a centre mid, but he's doing a job because they've got no other centre backs to pick from. I think Spurs' best midfield to go with, which gives them the most balance, is Basuma, Sarr, and Kulusevski. That's in my head the right mix of pace, power, defensive work instead of Basuma, and that creative spark in Kulusevski, who to me looks fantastic as a number 8, playing in that role. He's probably what Odegaard is for Arsenal.
Yeah, I'd agree with all of that. The only question would be with the front three. Son is going to start. You know that. Dom Solanke is going to go through the middle. You know that. The question is on the right wing. Do you go with Brennan Johnson or do you play James Maddison and push Kulusevski up onto the right? And I think that's the only question that they'll have. Odds are, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if he goes with Maddison and Kulusevski, because he might look to bring Johnson on with 30 minutes to go with Timo Werner as well as a possible option off the bench for pace. But he's very limited on what he's got available to him. I mean, Van de Ven is out, Christian Romero is out, Ben Davis is out, Vicario is out, Richarlison, Odebert is out, Bentancur is suspended, Mickey Moore, Timo Werner doubts they could be available for the bench. So he doesn't really have too many options to change anything either. So more or less the 11 he starts with, bar a couple of changes, is where he'll go to be able to go to the bench. So you'll look behind him and go, yeah, I ain't really got that many options. As you pointed out before we came on air, this is Spurs' fifth game in 15
days. We've done 3.
We've done 3 in the same time period, and we've got a few more players back to help the squad. So, I mean, more or less, it's going to be more or less the same 11 that went last night, bar the left back.
Michael Murphy points out around 70 Spurs look really tired and wide open to leave plenty of space. And I think that's the other thing for Liverpool is being level or God forbid, 1 down with 20 to go probably isn't the end of the world for Liverpool, because Liverpool are finishing games strong. They should be the fresher. I mean, from an injury perspective, we've only got now Konate and Bradley out. Everybody else is fit or pretty much available. So that's good. That's good for us because we're going to have rotation options going into the Christmas period. So that's fine. Right, Ashley, you get the fun bit. You get Liverpool, because I just feel like not giving Kev a chance. So let's go through what we think. So I think goalie, we all agree it's Alisson.
Yep. Yes.
Back 4, I think Trent, Gomez, Van Dijk. Those 3 are locked.
I think those are locked. I think you could probably toss a coin between Robertson and Tsimikas. I think it's going to go with Robertson. He's had the week off.
He's had the week off, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that Tsimikas is just gaining fitness back. And I'd like to see him come on for the last 30 minutes, be dangerous for set pieces, have the energy if they decide to have a late thrust at the end of the game. So, yeah, I'd go Robertson to start.
Cool. Midfield. So, Gravenberch nailed on because he didn't even travel. Now, I'll see how people feel as I wouldn't be surprised if McAllister is on the bench.
I wouldn't be either, because I think that Jones on Kulusevski would be a really good matchup, especially given how well he did against Palmer.
Yeah, that's my thought with Jones. And then Szoboszlai, again, didn't travel.
I think you need Szoboszlai. The pitch is so big, and you need his pressing power.
And I just think McAllister, we've seen for international duties that he does sometimes take a game or two to get back into the swing of things.
And I would love to have him come on late and control the game and lock it down.
Yeah. And the other thing is we still have 2 players in Gravenberch and Nunez who are 1 yellow away from suspension.
Yeah.
We've talked about cards and games. Eventually. It's going to happen eventually. So could I see Gravenberch pick up a yellow? The position he's in, probably. So
it honestly wouldn't be the worst game to do it, because you've got West Ham coming up.
I think it'd be less to do with miss, which that means. But I think,
would it be less?
But I think Leicester is probably where you want a McAllister because I think you want somebody who could pick passes and play to his strengths, and you have to just play Jones a bit deeper. So attack wise, so I think Salah and Diaz nailed on.
Yeah, they didn't start. They got rested.
Yeah. So there's I don't think Nunes starts. He did the full 90 against Southampton. I think he's a bench option, which is fine. I think someone put it in the chat before. I forgot to tag it. Nunes last 20. Actually, that will probably suit him because there'll be more space for him to run in behind to use his movement. But I thought Liverpool would build up Jota to get a big 60 against Spurs because this feels like a sort of game that would suit Jota. The fact he's only done 15 and 20 makes me think it'll probably be Gakpo.
Yeah, I think it just depends on his fitness, and I don't think Slot was going to give that away. We obviously saw that there was a little bit of a fitness concern prior to the Southampton game. I don't know what that was. I don't think it was an injury, but it might have just been reacting to coming back after so long. It might have been a muscle strain. We don't know. But he played a few minutes in Southampton, so he's not injured. But I do think that we need him to be managed properly because we need him long term. And I like him as an impact sub. I think he's always been very good as an impact sub. So I could see a world where he does the Diaz moves to the 9 and Gakpo goes out wide thing again, just based off of fitness. If Jota was fully fit, I think he'd be the one that was starting. And even with Nunes, like I'm sure there is a left field shout to put him in just because he's gotten that goal and assist, and especially because of the Fraser Foster thing where I think pressuring the goalkeeper, Nunes would be very, very good at that. Was
it Sheffield United? He scored with his arse doing the same,
basically
doing what Ahmad did.
I could see the shout for that. But my gut says it'll probably be Diaz that starts through the middle and maybe Gakpo on the left.
Yeah. Okay. Kev, I saw you waving. So
I'd start Darwin. I would 100% that this game is made for Darwin Nunes. That back four, that goalkeeper is made for Darwin Nunes. And Jota is just not ready. He's just, even when he came on he come on and looked good. It was funny actually. Slot mentioned today that he came on as a midfielder for the game against Fulham. But did he really though? Did he really? Yeah, I don't think so. But no, it's. I think you want to nurse him back through. I think the fact that he played 90 the other night shouldn't make any real difference. We've had the extra day's rest as well. I know Spurs are used to playing Thursday, Sunday, but I would be starting Darwin Nunes all day, every day, twice on Sunday. Well, once on Sunday. I'd also be starting Alexis McAllister because you want that level of control. You want that ability to take the ball in a half turn and relieve pressure. Plus, I think I would ideally love to see Luis Diaz and Mo Salah holding their width and holding their height away for Spurs to double check whether they allow Poirot and Udogie to go at the same time. Udogie tends to, off the left, do what Trent does off the right. He tends to come inside and supplement the midfield more often than not. But Poirot is one that loves a shot from distance. He's got a very good shot on him from distance. And he's one of many threats that they have going forward. But I think having Luis Diaz playing on the wing as the threat going the other way, if that doesn't give Ange pause to pull the horses up a bit on Poirot, then nothing will. But
to be honest,
I don't want him to. By the way, I don't want him to. I'd love him to go gung ho.
I don't think Slot does either. I think that's why he was so complimentary. He was like, "No, you. This looks great."
Yeah, this is fantastic. We would love to see you win something with this side of football. Yes, no, we really don't. But He's never going to win
I
it.
think that your shout with McAllister in the midfield is interesting because I actually think that when McAllister's in the midfield, our press is the most successful it's been this season. I think that our press has been off the last couple of games, and I think that's actually down to having a couple of different midfielders play that role that McAllister would normally play. So if he's 100% fit, I understand having him in there, and I think that's valid. But again, it's sort of like Jota, where I'm not sure where his fitness is.
Yeah. Dan J saying, I think Gakpo can bully Porro. There is also that, because one of the Gakpo things have done this year, which he didn't do as much under Klopp, maybe because he was asked to play new positions, is he's using his physicality more, his height.
Yeah.
He's a danger in the air, and I think this year he's sort of like, I don't know, almost like trust his body a bit more. He's like, I'm going to use my physicality because he's a powerful lad. He hasn't got the pace of a Luis Diaz. He's not slow, but he's taking advantage now of that physicality he has, which most fullbacks don't want to deal with.
The other side of it is, if you look at the fact that odds are he is going to go with Kulusevski as part of a midfield three, is Kulusevski going to do the ugly side of it and chase back? And if he decides to go with Gakpo on the left and maybe use Diaz off the bench later on, then he's going to really have to marshal what Cody Gakpo will do. Cut him back onto his right. He's the second highest scorer at the club this season, I think. And the fact that physically, you look at that Spurs 11 that they're literally obliged to almost play. You have to fancy us as a threat to be able to get at them from set pieces, to get at them from crosses, especially if you look at Trent and Salah being able to put a cross into the far post. And Cody Gakpo is very good at dealing with that and being a target for that. So look, we have options. It's nice at the minute that we do have options going into this period. And I think, and I keep going back to it, this is all brand new for Arne Slot as well. The Dutch league is already wrapped up for the for their winter break, more or less, at this stage. And they don't come back for a couple of weeks. So it's like this is all brand new for him, and he's got to manage this squad through this and you have the scoreboard pressure from Chelsea. You have to go and you have to be winning these games. By hook or by crook, we have to find a way to win this game. And there is no such thing as an easy away game in this league.
I think the season, I think the season showed away games are tough, no matter where you go.
Yeah, especially against a side with this many attacking threats.
Yeah. Give a score prediction, Kev. You know the rules.
I think we win it 4-2.
Oh. Goal scorers?
Salah scores 2. Darwin scores 1. And Diaz scores 1 that counts.
Do you know what? If Diaz scores one that counts,
I hope he does.
Please, can you do a celebration where one puts the fingers in the air and then goes offside and does the offside?
Yeah, but I wouldn't be a bit surprised. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we have to come from behind to win this. I wouldn't be a bit surprised. I think Spurs.
I'd be surprised if they score first.
Yeah, I think Spurs have to go for a jugular.
Ruin my weekend. Don't start this nonsense.
Hey,
I think this is the potential to be a proper heart attack game. It's like this has got the potential to really test a lot of players' mettle, and it wouldn't surprise me if we had to come from behind to win this. But I think if we get ahead in this, we can manage it and really pick them off because they'll have no choice. They're sat in 10th. They have to start picking up wins, especially at home. The pressure really should be on the manager a lot more than what it is. His bravado and his ability to plumose the press is keeping a lot of wolves from his door. He should be under an awful lot more pressure than what he actually is.
Yeah. So Rafa's got 3-2 to us. Salah, Brace, and Maka. Okay, right. This is one we're all nervous about now. Ashley,
I'm going to be really careful about how I.
Can we have your score? Because I've got to be honest. When it was 2-1 Fulham at Anfield,
I almost died. Don't worry about it.
There was going to be a very abusive phone call coming your way.
Liverpool are going to score 3 goals and Spurs are going to score 1 goal. So we are going to win the game.
Okay.
That is what I'm going with.
Okay, clip that.
All right. So
what we go for
there.
Goal scorers.
Goal scorers. I think Mo gets 2 and Diaz gets 1.
Cool. I was actually going to go with 3-1 myself, but I will go with shits and giggles. Let's go with 3-0 because that'll just throw everyone a clean sheet, wouldn't it? I'm going to go with Salah, Diaz, and Trent to get his first goal of the season, just for a bit of variety. Right, before we go, should we just talk about the other 3 big away games that happened this weekend? We've got Aston Villa as the early kickoff versus Man City, and then we've got Arsenal away to Palace, and then we've got Chelsea away to Everton. Mad at it. The four main teams all away this weekend. Ashley, Villa City early kickoff.
I think Villa can get something there.
But actually, Villa aren't in much better form than City. So
they aren't, but I still think they could beat them at this point. Yeah. I mean, I just think it's like City have lost the will to live. I don't know. And then who was it that was out? Is it Diaz that is out now with an injury?
Ruben Diaz is out for 3 to 4 weeks. Who's probably been their best defender?
I mean, there was an interview with Pep today who, like, he was crying it in. I don't know if you saw it. He basically was like, I just don't have the players. Like, I don't have the players to win anymore. And it was just pathetic. So I just hope that it continues for him because I'm tired of him. He's a good enough coach to coach them out of this mess. I just don't think he's going to do it. I think he's too much of a head case. He's stuck in his own head. It's like a my way or the highway thing. And I hope it just takes them, to 12th place with Man United.
Cool.
I'm salty.
Villa, Man City. Villa are in atrocious form as well. Look, Unai Emery ordinarily is not the kind of manager you want to be coming up against if you're desperate to try to get a result and you're out of form. But Villa just look like the volume of football they've played has started to catch up with them in a big way. I think it'll be a draw. Score draw, probably 1-1. I don't think it's going to be an exciting game, but I think, it's 1-1. It wouldn't actually surprise me if City won this one. I hope not, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did.
Fair enough. Then the next game is Crystal Palace at home to Arsenal. It was entertaining, the League Cup game, wasn't it, Kev? I mean, Arsenal did have to bring on the big guns to get the win. And despite the fact that the PGMOL are desperate for Arsenal not to win anything, Arsenal won 3-2 with an offside goal, which is handy.
Convenient.
So, convenient, isn't it? Yeah, that narrative always seems to fall by the wayside when that happens. But this is probably not the time to play Palace either, because Palace are actually in decent form at the moment. This is the Palace we thought we were getting at the start of the season. It seems to have finally clicked into a bit of form.
Yeah, it is, but a lot of it is going to be around how Palace approach it. They've got the players to hurt Arsenal on the counter for sure, but I think Arsenal should be too strong for them. But if that ground gets up at all, then it creates a brilliant atmosphere. So, and I know Arsenal have a lot of games coming up at the moment based in London, but all of these are derbies, and all of them have their own little intricacies of importance to the fan bases. So I think it'll be a tough night for Arsenal, but I think they'll get the win.
Okay. And then we've got Everton against Chelsea. You would think it should be a Chelsea win. Chelsea are sort of in that groove at the moment. I think they're top of the form guide for the last 6 games. I think they're a point better off than Liverpool. But Everton have finally found a way of keeping clean sheets and at least making themselves difficult to break down and score past. They can't score for toffee, no pun intended. But they are at least grinding out clean sheets, which is making them difficult. And they did the same against Arsenal already.
Yeah, I mean, the best you could probably hope for is a 0-0 draw there. One thing I'll say about the Palace game is that Eze is out. So I think that takes away one of their big threats. But yeah, I I don't like rooting for Everton, but
it's root for Chelsea to slip up.
Sure, we can do that. We can root for that, but I don't think they will.
No, I don't think they will either. I think they'll grind that. They should grind that out. I think Chelsea have got Brentford away. Is it soon? That something like that feels like more of a potential banana skin.
I know they have Fulham coming up, which I think will be a challenging game for them.
That's what I'm thinking for. I think it's Arsenal got Brentford. Sorry.
And Chelsea played Brentford last, beat them 2-1. Wasn't convincing. And if ever you're coming up against a side who don't want the ball and are quite happy for you to have the ball, it's going to be Everton. They're quite comfortable playing without the ball and letting you have it and saying to you, yeah, come and break us down. The thing is, I think Chelsea have more than enough ammunition. Unlike Arsenal, who are very one-dimensional in how they attack sides. Everything is down the right, and if it's not down the right, it's set-piece heaven. Chelsea have different ways to go at you. Through the wings, through the middle. Jackson is playing really well. He's on form. But at the same time, they don't have a great record at Goodison Park. So I think
Everton normally get a big result at Goodison. They normally get at least 2 a season. I think where they normally scare one of the big teams. I mean, it was always last year.
Yeah,
I think.
It'd be interesting to see. It'd be interesting to see what the atmosphere is like there after the deal was finally announced. After the takeover was finally announced.
I think they just took ownership of the new stadium too.
Yeah, so we'll see what the atmosphere is like in the ground, and if the atmosphere is good, and they can stay in it until half time, then it could be a long day for Chelsea. But look, hand on heart, I think Chelsea should be winning there. They really should.
Yeah, because I think looking at it, the only 2 Chelsea are missing out. Cucurella is suspended, and Lavia has picked up yet another hamstring injury. Apparently, he can't seem to.
Yeah, but it's not as if
surely Reece James is still injured somewhere.
Yeah. Plus, but on the negative side, Pedro Neto is back from suspension, which is a fucking nightmare. Yeah. Whoever the right back is, Pedro Neto is just a nightmare to play against.
The other side of it looks like they'll probably play that Renato Vega at left back. I mean, he's no left back, but he's a good 6'3", 6'4".
He's a new Ivanovic, isn't he?
He's a unit. I remember. Yeah. But Ivanovic was a decent player. This guy
he was a unit, though, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, exactly. But yeah, look, you've got Caicedo and Fernandes in the middle of the park, Sancho, Palmer, Neto, Jackson up front. They should be breaking everything down fairly comfortably. I'd be shocked if Everton get anything out of this. It would be a massive turn up.
Okay. So, final question, Kev, Mr. Grumpy, Mr. Happy that you can sometimes be.
I am happy.
Will Liverpool be top on Christmas Day?
Yeah.
By how many points? How many points will they be top by?
What are we clear of now? 2?
2.
Yeah, it'll be 2 points clear.
Okay. Ashley, same question to you.
I'm expecting that. I'm expecting us to stay at the top.
Okie dokie. Good. I'll be extra positive because it's Christmas time. We'll be top and the gap will be 4 points. Because for some reason, Neto will score an own goal. Yeah, ever the optimist. You got to hope for it. Yeah, cool. Right, so listen, for the rest of the week, us 3 are back on Sunday night.
Yeah.
Possibly, I think Matt's back as well. I think that might be the last show with us 4 on before Christmas. I don't think we're not planning to be working Monday, but you never know. Well, Kev doesn't work, so it'll be all right.
I ain't working now.
And then Gavin will be back for Fatback 4 on Sunday night. So listen, hopefully we'll see you all on Sunday when we're hopefully talking about Liverpool being top of the league and beating Tottenham. Till then, take care. Speak to you soon.